Good afternoon. I'm with Greg Davis, CEO of SUNPF Metals. The symbol is PEAK on the TSX venture. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Good morning, Robert.
I want to ask you, before we get into SUNPF, I want to ask you about the news that we got on Monday morning, with Eldorado Gold buying, or, they have an agreement to acquire Foran Mining, which is a VMS explorer in Canada. It's actually in Saskatchewan, and SUNPF is a VMS explorer. What do you make of the Foran news, the price tag, and everything?
Well, it's very encouraging, and it's a sign of the times for a stable source of base metals, in particular copper, but along with zinc and of course gold and silver credits along with it. That one is interesting for us. I got to say they've done a very, very good job. We watched them start. Trying to get my years right here, but it was probably 5-6 years ago. And their early results, we looked at it. They had some pretty significant investors early on, and we looked at their early results, and it looked a lot like some of our projects that we were exploring in Tigray in Ethiopia at the time. And we call Adiak Keel, or Keel for short, and Myagrib, which we call Argo for short. With that on that, it looks very similar in terms of the structure and the width and the grades. And they had a very good market cap, and it was encouraging for us, although of course they were in stable part of Canada, mining friendly area, and we were at the time where we felt was a fairly stable area, but of course there's been conflict there since. But geology comparisons at the time were very similar. Now jump ahead 5-6 years later, and the deal that you referred to, which came out on Monday, really shows that they were able to explore, apply different geophysical and detailed work, very focused work, and able to expand the resource and the zone significantly over the last few years. And I guess that high sales price, that high price, really reflects having a good copper, zinc, precious metal project in a stable jurisdiction. But yeah, it was very, very impressive to watch their progress over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, I think Foran was like a unicorn junior explorer, junior miner, because they never really had any troubles. It was just like a perfect story of raising at increasingly higher share prices, getting to $1 billion market cap very quickly. Just an incredible story. And then of course, they get the buyout right before the mine goes into operation here in 2026. It's very interesting that a gold mid-tier is acquiring a VMS mine. That there's a lot of things that are different about this story, but 2026 is a different world, it's a different market. And so I wrote about that on Monday, that I think we're gonna see, or sorry, I wrote about it on Tuesday. We're gonna see some acquisitions that we're not used to. I think we're going to see more gold miners get into base metals, and obviously copper. The copper story is incredibly compelling, and there's only so many multi-billion-ton porphyry copper deposits out there. So, we have to look towards VMS and other models to find copper. So look, let's get into SUNPF. You're kicking off the news flow here in 2026. There's already 2 news releases in January, Greg.
Yes.
So great job. Let's talk about the exploration program overview and the top 3 projects there in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, as you said, 2 news releases. The first one was really sort of a general overview, and that we're beginning work. We summarized some of the projects that we have, and it's a rifle approach over Saudi Arabia. Again, very similar to what we saw. You brought it up in Saskatchewan 5-6 years ago with Foran, and very similar surface expression and initial assays. So we wanted to, the first one, we want to summarize what we have in a little more detail in Saudi Arabia in terms of our key projects and our what we call our pipeline projects that are coming through the recent auction last fall and other applications we have pending, and a bit about what we plan on doing work-wise going forward. And then the second news release was our first results as SUNPF, and we were very excited. I mean, and that was at Halahila, our Halahila project. It's a VMS project. Has a gossan at the surface, the oxidized sulphides at the surface, and we did a detailed mapping and sampling program. We took 100 samples, a lot of them across strike, to get a real feel for representative assay grades of gold and silver. I think I said copper earlier. I meant gold and silver. And the results came back, and we were very encouraged. Gold values up to 16 grams per ton. I think 25% of the assays sampled of the 98 were greater than 1 grams per ton gold, and that's right across. So that includes the outside samples as well, outside of the zone, and high silver values as well. And we've defined an area of 650 meters long strike and up to 30 meters wide. So it's got some significant size to it. And just to refresh your memory on VMS, the VMS itself is massive sulphide, in the ground as it was emplaced 600, 700 million years ago in this region. But where it's exposed to the surface, the sulphide material oxidizes over time. The base metals are typically washed out, and it's left with iron oxide, which can be rich in gold and silver, and that's what we're seeing here. So we're quite pleased. We've mapped it out 650 and sampled it, but we believe it continues. Well, we know it continues a lot more along strike. In fact, several kilometers in both directions. Now it pitches and swells, but there's a lot of upside potential here once we get rolling with the next step. And the next step is ground EM. We are currently conducting time domain ground EM, a Crone system. It's quite a sophisticated system on 3 of our lead projects: Safra, Almaya, and then Halahila. So once we've done Halahila, we're essentially drill ready on that project, ready to go.
So the Halahila, sorry if I didn't say it right, is the #1 project right now, but the Almaya and the Safra are very close, second and third. Should we think of them as the 3 are the main priorities right now, or should we think of the Halahila as the top project right now?
Well, we have that discussion with our team all the time, and we've kind of joked whichever project we've done the most work on seems to be the front runner. And right now, that's Halahila with the recent sampling. They're all similar. Safra has a series of gossans that have been mapped out and sampled, and it has elevated gold, silver, and copper, zinc, quite a bit at surface in that project. We've done EM, and we've done gravity. Again, the next step there is we probably want to expand the EM work a little bit more. Do a bit more work, but it's essentially drill ready. It'll be drilled in 2026 as well. And then at Almaya, the same process. We have a series of gossans. We 2 of them parallel, a few kilometers apart, and we've done ground gravity, defined anomalies associated with it. There's not a lot of exposure where we think the main sulfide body would be. It's sort of on the flats, on a wall. On a gentle slope with a lot of sand on it. So our next steps there are to We've done EM, but we're going to expand it and interpret it, and then do some trenching. And it may be drilled in 2026 too. It may be the third one that we drill in 2026. And then moving back to Halahila, again, that is one that we definitely want to drill. I think we've been saying Q2, Q3, or H2, but we're working hard at. We think it'll be ready to drill in April in Q2, and so we're trying to work on scheduling with drill contractors to see if we can, and we'll provide an update to you on that as soon as we've firmed up the timing. But that's what we're aiming for right now.
Greg, can you explain to us why these VMS targets tend to have a long and skinny footprint at the surface? I've seen a bunch of them, like the one you have at the Halahila target, where it's kind of narrow but it's super long.
Right. Well, use my phone here for illustrative purposes. When these things are initially deposited, they're on a seafloor, and the lenses are, of course, how they settle on the seafloor, so horizontal. And then in this region and many other regions over time, I mean, these things are still occurring as we speak in the middle of the Red Sea. You can Google it, black smokers in the middle of the Red Sea, and it spews this sulphide material and it settles horizontally. But over the last 600, 700, 800 million years in the region, it's been a rift environment, and it's moved both ways, to the west, to East Africa, and to the east. And in many cases, these things have been distorted, they've been faulted, and they've been folded. But if they're lying now somewhat subvertically, which we've seen examples at Bisha in Eritrea, Embedero in Eritrea was a big one, but it was a little different. It was folded up in a nice package for open pit mine. But in this case, and what we're seeing with Halahila, it is been distorted. It looks like it's been folded. We're trying to get a feel on that, and the surface expression is what we're seeing, and it's like 30 meters wide. But and as I said earlier, that's the iron oxide, the gold silver zone. What we don't know yet, and this would be really interesting to follow, is when we drill it, what kind of the original material, what kind of copper, zinc, gold, silver, perhaps lead are we going to see at depth, and what's the width? And that we won't know until we drill. Our geophysics, both our gravity methods and our electromagnetic EM methods, which define a conductor, help us with sort of the orientation, the structure, and perhaps the help us target the key areas, the thickest areas of these things. But we won't know it until we drill. So your question is, yeah, they've been distorted and faulted and tilted and twisted, and we're seeing the surface expression of the side of it in a lot of these cases.
So once you do the PDEM survey, the target there at Halahila is drill ready?
Yes.
Okay. And in comparison to other VMS targets that you've worked in the past and you've explored, how do those gold and silver grades, the surface samples, the rock chip samples, compare to other targets that you've worked?
Well, that's a good question, and again, we spend a lot of time internally comparing. Sometimes the iron oxide zone, the gossan, is very low in gold. An example of that was Embedero, which ultimately was 85 million ton world-class deposit, which we explored as Sunridge around Asmara in Eritrea. The gossan there was weak. It was thin. It only averaged ultimately in the end, when it was finally drilled out, 1.05 grams per ton. And it was quite thin, and it was twisted and distorted, and you could see it was folded, and it was not that exciting. And in that case, we did gravity, and we identified an offset gravity anomaly several hundred meters off, which ultimately turned out to be the massive sulphides. At Bisha, the gossan had been sampled, and a lot of the assays were initially quite low, with only a few spikes on it that grabbed attention. Ultimately, it was when we drilled it and then we trenched across and got fresh rock that it was consistently, 7 grams per ton average, but a lot of 20 gram per ton zones in there. There's others like at NFS, it was a thin gossan at top, but it turned out to be very, very high grade in the massive sulfides below. In fact, it was over 10% zinc and 2.2% copper. It actually had 3.3 grams gold and 105 grams per ton silver, so a very rich material, but didn't have much of a gossan on it. That was a very thin gossan. So there are similarities, Robert, but they're all a little bit different. But we are, as a team, very, very encouraged by the initial results, the size of the Halahila gossan, and the consistent gold and silver grades that we're seeing at the surface. So it gives us a lot of confidence when we drill it that we'll have significant grades below.
At Safra, the trenching results stand out to me as very good. I mean, to have almost a gram gold and basically more than 1 ounce silver with copper, lead, and zinc there over 22 meters is pretty impressive to me. And you did the TDEM there already. When do we get those results?
Well, we have done the and our strategy on this was we did an initial EM on Safra, and we had begun to define a conductor, and we want to expand it, but we debated whether to do it then or ultimately come back to it, and we agreed that the best way is we did what we set out to do, and then we moved to Amaya, and now we're moving to Halahila, where we're going to go back to Safra to expand the conductor that we were defining. And so it needs more work. It's open. Now, again, you always got to qualify that. It doesn't mean the conductor is caused by a VMS or a massive sulfide in the ground. That's what we hope it is. There's other things that can cause a conductor, but it does sit in the right location, right on that trend where those gossans and the trenches that you referred to are. So we're encouraged by that. It also has gravity. We do want to go back and further expand the EM work. And the beauty of being in Saudi Arabia, it's easy. We in other areas we've worked in, it's a bit of a task to work here and then move far away and then go back. But here the roads are so, everything is straight and paved and easy to. It's a day move. So it's quite easy to be nimble and explore systematically and coming back to things. So the results we need to expand it and properly interpret it and define, model it and put plates, but that is coming and we will be drilling it this year.
So you were just in Saudi Arabia at the conference at the beginning of January. That conference in Riyadh definitely made some headlines, and I even posted some videos of David Copley, the Trump 2.0 mining czar, and some of the other speakers there. What was your overall takeaway from that conference?
Well, once again, it looks like everything has changed in the last 5 years in Saudi Arabia. It's a very prolific area, the Arabian-Nubian Shield, or the Arabian part of that. We've always known that, but it's only in the last 5 years that the mining laws have changed, and it's being encouraged from the leadership in Saudi Arabia, which resulted in the conference, which has grown each year in the last 5. And so there's a tremendous amount of excitement for the future of mining in Saudi Arabia, as they've now declared it the third pillar of the economy behind tourism and, of course, oil and gas. So yeah, it was a very, very exciting 3 days. we did have a booth there and a presence there. And, you know, our objectives were to continue to grow our network in the kingdom, to line up service providers and and look for other opportunities and align ourselves with, there was a lot of Western analysts and fund managers that are visiting the conference. So it was very, very worthwhile. I believe the number is somewhere around 20,000 delegates. So it has grown very fast.
20,000 delegates in Saudi Arabia. So that's almost like a turnout you'd see at PDAC.
Yeah, yeah, and it's quite remarkable. And don't quote me on that exact number, but it's somewhere in that range. I'm sure the official number is somewhere, but it is it does have a PDAC feel to it, but it's got a in terms of the number, but it's very, very focused too. It's very regionally focused on all aspects of the new mining industry, on investment in the region, and geology and exploration and mining in the region.
Very good. So SUNPF is in round 9 of the auction process. You put this in the latest news release.
Yes.
Tell us about that and how much ground are you adding?
Well, round 9 was conducted last fall, and we put a tremendous amount of effort into round 9 as a team. You know, we did research ahead of time. We visited every block that we considered, the ones that we ruled some of them out by being on the ground, and we prioritized some of them on the ground. And so we are finalizing round 9 right now, or it's being finalized. But when all is said and done, we expect to acquire 7 new blocks, approximately 630 square kilometers. We'll provide full details of location and the geology once it's finalized. But we are very excited, and it'll also add to our portfolio. And once it's done, we have plans to continue our formula there, aggressive exploration, applying the same methods that we've been doing for 20 years. And we bid on these ones because we see a lot of potential there. And I'm looking forward to officially unveiling it and providing the reasons why we like it.
What's the biggest challenge that SUNPF faces in Saudi Arabia?
Well, it is a new focus on the mining sector. I mean, there has been mining there for decades, but not like this. It was done by, mostly done by the state mining company at the time, Ma'aden. But now we have, it's open. There's a lot of companies moving in. We do have first mover advantage. We do have 20 years of experience in these rocks to draw from. We know what we're doing. We select our ground very carefully, but there are a lot of companies that we need to stay ahead of the curve on, and we will. We also have other companies acquiring licenses through the auction process. The timeline for work will be the same, so we'll be competing with them for services such as drills or lab to get assays done. I think we'll see a real crunch on demand for drills and equipment and mining services over the next few years. So we're working hard again to align ourselves now with the companies that we want to work with, and to stay ahead of the curve on that.
Very good. So Greg, I'll give you the final word. What can investors expect from SUNPF Metals over the coming months?
Sure. Well, as I said earlier, I think that the key thing is we'll have timely updates on our progress, results, and it's our goal for 2026 to demonstrate value in the projects and in SUNPF at a corporate level through results, through result-driven news releases, including updates like we had at Halahila earlier, but then more fulsome updates as we begin drilling these new projects.
All right. Thank you very much, Greg.
Okay. Thank you, Robert.